Call Haloim Yahweh, Bahasham, Mashiach Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakakodash, Barakatham. Shalom. This is your fellow servant Tazawar, here with another lesson. First, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, and also from whom we learn this truth. Shalom to Akim around the world, pushing likewise doctrine in spirit and in truth with all sincerity. To you few sisters that are listening and learning, as well as you speckled birds who are scattered among the nations, looking like those nations. To the 144,000 elect men, and to the rest of the hopeful elect, to you I say, Shalom. I haven't done a Hebrew conduct in a minute, so this will be a brief, brief meaning short, entry under Hebrew conduct, okay? And it's something that all the brothers, who've been laboring, and not just the brothers, the sisters as well, to all the believers who have been laboring and or listening, right, that you should know. And it's about keeping your peace, right? Holding thy peace, or keeping your mouth shut. All right, knowing when to speak, all right, if an answer is required at all. And it brings to mind often that, whenever we're out on the highways and byways, and we kicking the gospel, a lot of times people will walk up and they'll interject, or they'll fly off the handle with the answer or a rebuttal, I'll say, to something that we've said. And most times they haven't listened long enough to grasp the point of the message, right? And we also see this, with people popping up online, giving their vain opinions on this thing of ours. Us being Israelites ruffles a lot of feathers. Let me rephrase that. Us knowing and owning our heritage ruffles a lot of feathers. Because there are Israelites who are part of the bloodline, per se, right? They belong to our family line, but mentally, they have bought into. They've drank the wine, okay? They've bought into the philosophies and the ideologies of this system of Babylon the Great. Okay? And they buck up against the word They buck up against the truth. All right. And again, it's not just about knowing that you're an Israelite, because we too offend other Israelites, other groups, by pushing the doctrine, all right, the gospel in its pureness. Okay, pushing the names of the Heavenly Father and His Son, the name Yahweh, who is the Heavenly Father, all right, whom you ignorantly call God, the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, whom you ignorantly call Jesus the Christ, who is the only begotten Son. Yahushua HaMashiach is the only begotten Son of the Heavenly Father, all right, and the firstborn of creation. But we see this often on the highways and byways, and even on the comment boards. These videos pop up, and a lot of times, it's bitter Judite women, or appear to be Judite women. They could be heathens, or they could be from one of the other tribes, but a bitter so-called black woman, right? And even some guys, some men have made videos coming against the truth. And that's the important part. Not just about being an Israelite, but the doctrine that we push, all right, that we learned from our elders, the elder apostles and bishops of Great Millstone, who are the heads of our nation in this time, right? Whether you like it, accept it or not, but they are. Now, without further ado, let me get to the lesson, because I don't want to ramble. I'm not sure what I'm going to title this yet, but bear with me regardless. Anyway, let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes, all right, written by our beloved King Solomon, all right, who was Yahushua in a previous incarnation, if you can receive that, right? And let's start at 1. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. And you see the header at the top. It says, a time for everything. All right. Hey, and this is beautiful, because I may pull this verse in another lesson going into, let me see, verse 3 and on down. Anyway, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. A time for everything, as the header reads. And we're going to read down until I get to the point. To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the sun. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. All right? A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. All right? So verse 3 and verse 8 are beautiful, and they can go for another lesson. But the point here is verse 7 is the point. Okay, a time to rend and a time to sow. All right, rend goes into tearing, ripping something apart. The second half of that verse, and a time to keep silence and a time to speak. That's the point here, as you can tell by the opening of this video, right? To every time, to everything there's a time, right? For every occasion under the sun, there is a time. I'm going to read verse 7 again without stopping. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 7. A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Right? And as I mentioned, when we pushing the gospel, when we pushing the doctrine, you have a lot of people who they come up and they make fools of themselves. Actually, we can just go over 2 chapters and read this verse. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 1. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, right? And be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Right? And when we out, that's what I'm saying. When we out, we get a lot of that. A lot of people come up and they give the sacrifice of fools, man. Not considering that they do evil. Because the tongue is a wicked thing. All right? The tongue is a wicked thing, man. And, as the saying goes, life and death lie in the power of the tongue. Right? Or as they say in the world, your words have meaning. Your words hold weight. Right? This is also why, especially as men, we should not be hasty to make a vow or a promise. Okay? Because we know that, the Lord orders our steps. He directs our path. This thing we know, which is why amongst brethren, amongst, the Akim, we often say, if we have the intent to set plans, anything like that, we always say, Lord willing, right? Or Adawan Ratazah, Lord willing, or Yahweh Ratazah, right? Or Yahweh's will, Yahweh willing. If that be the case, he will make occasion for those plans on our behalf, right? But yeah, man, your words can be heavy. They are heavy. All right, and we know that, especially those who labor, right, and you as well as you believers, as we grow up in this thing, right, as we strengthen our faith, and we grow in the spirit, right, and become more rooted and grounded in this thing, right, as we build that spiritual temple, okay, and edify the body. Speaking of the congregation, the body of Hamashiach, right, as we edify that body and we lay those roots down deeper, all right, in this thing that we believe of, in the scriptures and in the prophecies, all right, in the spirit of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, man, as we become renewed and our conversion is turning us into a new creature. we understand that our words become even more powerful because we do our best to move in the spirit day in and day out, right? Because the scriptures tell us, hey, walk in the spirit, and we will not fulfill the temptations of the flesh, roughly paraphrased. So as we do that, and we grow in this thing, we grow in our journey, our discernment should increase, right? Our spiritual gifts, all right? But also our spiritual power, man. You know, hey, and I'm a firm believer that faith is a form of spiritual power, right? Which is beautiful because it's given, right? The faith is given unto us because you have to be chose. You have to be predestinated, ordained. Okay? But faith is a form of spiritual power, man. How do we know that? Because the scriptures say, roughly paraphrased, the faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. Right? Now, if you ever seen a mustard seed, it's extremely small. Like half the size of a grain of rice. Right? Maybe even smaller. And I'm talking about dried rice, uncooked, before it, soak up the water and expand. Mustard seed is tiny. It's really smaller than half of a grain of rice in reality. But that amount of faith can move mountains, man. Mountains going into governing bodies or power systems that reside in the earth. Okay. This is why, when you read the scriptures, it talks about Mount Zion, right? Mountain of the monument, to Zion, going into monument. But that's the government of Yasharallah. Okay. But as we know, we got mountains and hills in this time. Mountains representing large governments, big governing bodies, and hills representing the small governments or the small governing bodies. An example would be a mountain is America, or aka Babylon the Great. Russia is a mountain. China is a mountain, right? A hill would be like fucking Finland or Costa Rica, or a small government system like one of the smaller countries. Anyway, the faith of a mustard seed can move mountains, and we've seen through our elders and apostles, that the Lord is with them. And they may have been in there. They have told stories where they've been in straits with the local governments, right? And the Lord has removed them out of that situation, man, because they found favor in the eyes of the Lord. How? By being diligent men, by doing this thing, right? But faithful men. And many brothers, whether they be elders or not, have testimonies, showing that concept, that modicum of faith, man, can move mountains. All right. Anyway, As we grow in this thing, we understand that our words become more powerful. They hold weight. All right. Reading on. You know what? Let me start at verse 1 again. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 1. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of the Lord, right? Of Yahweh. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God, for God is in heaven, and thou upon the earth. Therefore let thy words be few. Right? Again, going into making promises or oaths without considering things, but also just knowing when to speak in general, man. When to hold your peace, like we got in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Right? There's a time for everything. Proverbs chapter 10 and let's do 18. Yeah, let's do 18. And I'm gonna get this in the King James version as well as the NLT. All right. Proverbs 10 and 18. He that hideth hatred with lying lips, and he that uttereth a slander is a fool. In the multitude of words there wanteth not sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. The tongue of the just is as choice silver. The heart of the wicked is little worth. The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for want of wisdom. All right. Again, going into the power of the tongue, man. All right. The power, the power of your tongue. Verse 19 really stuck out. In the multitude of words there wanteth not sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise. I'm going to get this again in the NLT. Hiding hatred makes you a liar, right? Slandering others makes you a fool. Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut. The words of the godly are like sterling silver. The heart of a fool is worthless. The words of the godly encourage many, but fools are destroyed by their lack of common sense. And that's cold because like I keep saying, when we go out on the highways and byways, man, and we push in this word, a lot of people don't listen long enough to grasp the message. They may hear one word, which could be a buzzword or whatever it is, and they fly off the handle. And ultimately, it's the Lord doing that because the Lord sent them there at that appointed time to hear what they heard, just so they can get pissed off and say something either stupid, or the Lord puts on their spirit to hold their peace, and they may hear something, and it might plant a seed, right? And Lord willing, that seed, if that be the case, Lord willing, that seed grow and flourish, right? Because, hey, we have to remember, one of the things that's difficult for us that have been believers for a long time, we forget how much growth we had, man. And we still growing. That's the crazy part, because if you're not careful, you can forget how far you've come. So, hey, it's no coincidence that sometimes the Lord will put people in front of you, as if you a man of the Lord or a laborer or a believer, right? The Lord will put people in front of you. And I had to learn this lesson too. That may currently be in a position that you came from, right? And hopefully it could be a reminder to you of your level of growth, meaning that you should exercise some level of grace, all right, with certain individuals if they're sincere. If they're sincere. All right. And if they're not, you know, as a believer or a laborer or a man of the Lord, do your best to maintain some level of decorum. All right, because we don't want to stain the ministry. All right, I'm gonna read 20 again. The words of the godly are like sterling silver. Right? The heart of a fool is worthless. Verse 21 is what I wanted. Salakia. The words of the godly encourage many, but fools are destroyed by their lack of common sense. The words of the godly encourage many. And, hey, that's part of the reason we out there. Not just, we are out there to rebuke. Don't get it twisted. But admonishment, encouragement, right? Guidance, all these things. Okay? The scriptures tell us to prophesy to the wind. And we're really out there for the elect, because the Lord is in control of who will receive the message and who will forbear. The Lord controls who will pull the shoulder, who will like scoff and type shit. Right? And the Lord controls who will hold their peace and learn something. Because people are likened unto ground. You got fertile ground, and then you got the rocky, stony ground, man. Okay? This was supposed to be short. Salakia. Let's go to what I want. I want James. Yeah. James 1 and hold up, let me see something. Yeah, James 1 and 19. Yeah, James 1 and 19. It says, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Right? The point is right there, 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Right? Hold on real quick. Yeah, let me read this again. James 1:19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Because let's see. Okay, yeah, this one. James 3 and 1. Right? The tongue, the heading says the tongue is a fire. All right, this is James chapter 3, verse 1. My brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. This is the point. Behold, look, we put bits in the horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with them a very small helm. Yet are they turned about with a very small helm. Slaki. Let me read that again. Verse 4. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeneth. Right? What that mean? That means that little what they call that joint on the back of a ship. So like in the old movies, they got the ships with the sails on them, right? And you see the guy at the wheel, at the little pirate's wheel, right? Call it that. The captain's wheel, spinning the wheel, right? To guide the ship. Well, that wheel is attached to a small little flap in the water that turns left and right to guide the ship. I can't think of what it's called right now. I want to say oar, but it's not an oar. Because oar is what you like row the boat with. It's a daggone, I can't think of what it's called. But that's how you steer a ship. A whole big gigantic boat, right, is moved with that one little mechanism on the back, on the bottom. Can steer that whole, it say right here, though they be so great and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm. That little flap in there that's under the water. And they go left and right. What that's called? Man, y'all know what I'm talking about. Verse 5, even so, this is the point, even so the tongue is a little member and boasteth great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature. And it is set on fire of hell. Okay? So that's telling you, your tongue, like I'm saying, that tongue is a wicked thing, man. Or can be. Right? Coming up on my time. So let me get these last two real quick. This is Ecclesiastes. I want to go back to Ecclesiastes chapter 5. I read this already. And I'm going to just get verse 2 because I already read this. All right. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God. For God is in heaven, and thou upon the earth. Therefore, let thy words be few. All right. Now, this is Sirach. I want the book of Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach, chapter 20. We want to start at verse 5. This is the book of Sirach, or the book of Ecclesiasticus. All right, the book of Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, the 20th chapter, verse 5. There is one that keepeth silence, and is found wise, and another, by much babbling, becometh hateful. Some man holdeth his tongue because he hath not an answer, and some keep silence knowing his time. Right? A wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. He that useth many words shall be abhorred, and he that taketh to himself authority therein shall be hated. Right? That word abhorreth, meaning goes into to like keep distance, right? Keep away, keep somebody away. So it's saying, he that useth many words shall be abhorred. Like if you bump your gums too much, right? If you talk too much, stay away from people like that, right? Hey, the scriptures talk about sinful women that get abroad and get into gossiping and doing all of that. All right, so that goes to both men and women. All right, but anyway, that's the point. This has been Hebrew Conduct. All right. I'm not sure what I'll title it. The tongue is wicked or something along those lines. But anyway, I pray this message finds you well. I pray that it was edifying. And until next time, Shalom. Wa Abad Babal.